Jews. But George Tenet is clearly Jewish. He is, by the way, the current head of the CIA under George Bush. Now, in the Spotlight newspaper was this incredible information that most Americans never heard about. It seems that John Deutsch, who had been made director of the CIA, turned out to be a spy of Israel. He was head of our CIA, but reportedly he spied for Israel. And, in fact, he was found out to be a spy for Israel and evidently turned over information to them by putting it in his portable computer and taking it home and then turning it over to Mossad Israeli spy agents. Can you imagine the head of the CIA turning out to be a spy for Israel? Talks about his dual loyalties. All of this, of course, has been covered up. Here's another article that came out about that. He was a big buddy, by the way, of Henry Kissinger, Secretary of State under Richard Nixon, also Jewish. Now, we keep going on with all of the information we've got about this. Oh, I wish I had more time because we have so much to reveal to you today. Here under Bill Clinton is his Secretary of Agriculture, Dan Glickman. He is a 33rd degree Mason, and he's Jewish. Then below, this is a page from Criminal Politics magazine. Look at this picture. This is pretty shocking, if you will. Here you have Louis Freeh, head of the FBI under Bill Clinton. Louis Freeh, the Waco monster that killed all those people. And there is Stephen Kahn and the head of the Jewish ADL, Anti-Defamation League. You'll see, by the way, the Jewish Star of David on the wall behind the picture of Abe Foxman, head of the Jewish ADL. And then in the middle, in the center, is Louis Freeh, who was a Jesuit, a Mason, and a promoter of Judaism within the Federal Bureau of Investigation. He did everything Israel asked him to do. And there's another Jewish high-up, Mr. Kahn. Then, here's an interesting article. It says the Israeli paper, Mahari, that's one of the largest circulation newspapers, daily newspapers in Israel today, boast of Jewish control of U.S. government. Below it says is an exact reproduction of Israel's leading Hebrew language daily newspaper of September 2, 1994, written by Avanon Bar Yosef, this article. And it talks about the various people in the Clinton administration. Basically, it says Clinton's administration is run by Jews. It's a Jewish administration. There is author on the left is Arthur Levitt, chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission. He's supposed to be in charge of watching the Wall Streeters. Stuart Eisenstadt, U.S. ambassador to the European community. There's Madeleine Albright, who discovered she was Jewish. Suddenly, it came out in some newspapers that she was hiding the fact that she was Jewish, and says, oh, yes, I have now discovered that I'm Jewish. I didn't know before, she stated. Madeleine Albright. She was a communist, by the way. Her father was a communist. She was a communist. She became Secretary of State under Bill Clinton. And here is Bill Clinton, a picture of him on the right, worshiping in Washington, D.C.'s National Synagogue. Notice again the yarmulke on his head. Here again we have a picture of Bill and Hillary Clinton worshiping together. How about this picture, my friends? There they are. And what is on his head? A Jewish skull cap, a yarmulke. Is he, in fact, a hidden Jew? When Hillary Clinton visited Jerusalem, she went to the Wailing Wall. The temple remains. And just like all the other Jews did, she put her little prayer request in the crack there. Here, by the way, is Madeleine Albright meeting with a Jewish rabbi. She went to visit her parents' grave in Prague, Czechoslovakia. She's actually a Czechoslovakian. Bill Clinton, all these foreign Jews in power with him. There she is meeting at the cemetery where her parents are buried with a Jewish rabbi. If you want to know why we have such immigration problems, here's the woman who was head of immigration, the Immigration Naturalization Service under Bill Clinton. And what ethnic group do you think she's with? Of course, she's Jewish. Doris Meissner. Our country was run by Jews who I believe were more loyal to Israel than they were the United States. Well, let's see. We've got so much more for you. We go to another man, Al Gore. There's no doubt that Al Gore is run by the Jewish Illuminati. Here in Insight Magazine, here was a article, Armand Hammer haunts Al Gore. It's because Armand Hammer was a Jewish multimillionaire who gave many bribes and payoffs to Al Gore. And, by the way, he was a Soviet agent, Armand Hammer. Big friend of the whole Gore family, including Albert Gore Sr., Al Gore Jr.'s father. Now, here's something from the Jerusalem Post newspaper. And it talks about Al Gore. It says, when Gore came for the Jubilee celebration in Israel, it gave me a great feeling. The same is true of the Russians. When they see senior Israeli officials rubbing shoulders with their Russian counterparts. This is not dual loyalty, says Eli Kotzton, Jewish reporter, but dual patriotism. Oh, sure. By the way, this is just an article out of the Los Angeles Times, very interesting. It says many of Japan's tabloids demonstrate hysterical anti-Semitism. The papers in Japan incessantly, that is continually, portray Clinton's victory as a Jewish conspiracy. Isn't that interesting? The papers in Japan know what Americans do not know. Here's an interesting article talking about Tel Aviv, Israel, tapping the White House phones, knowing everything President Clinton is saying. The fourth branch admits Tel Aviv tap on White House phones. Everything Clinton said, he better be a loyal subject of Israel because they were tapping his phones. You remember, that's what Bill Clinton told Monica Lewinsky. My phones are tapped by another country. We can't talk. By the way, Bill Clinton's chief political advisor, James Carville, the raging Cajun, they called him. Did you know that when Bill Clinton wanted Ehud Barak to be prime minister of Israel, the Illuminati Jews arranged for James Carville to go over to Israel. Now, Barak was running against Netanyahu, who was then the prime minister. But the Illuminati wanted Barak, and so Carville went over. Here the Jerusalem Post says, guess what? Image maker James Carville. He went over to Israel and ran the campaign, the political campaign. They were going to have elections in Israel. As you can see from this Jewish magazine, the Jerusalem Post, talking about the elections, 1999. There's a picture of Barak, and of course his opponent was Benjamin Netanyahu. Here's an article out of a United States newspaper. No, I'm sorry, this is the Jerusalem Post again. Got so much material here. It's hard to remember where it all comes from. It says Carville to form Israeli consulting firm. Hey, guess what? Ehud Barak did win the prime ministership of Israel, thanks to Bill Clinton, his pal, and political advisor James Carville. And Carville decided, with the Illuminati's help, to found a consulting firm on a permanent basis there. Here's an article that's very interesting. This is from End Time Magazine of May of 97. Clinton tells Israelis, U.S. will stand with you always. He went over to Israel and he spoke to the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, on October the 27th, and that's what he told them. There he is with a Jewish Star of David behind him. We will stand behind you always. Did you know that in the year 2002, Bill Clinton gave a speech before 300 of the richest Jews in the world in Europe? And you know what he told them? He said, if there is a war between Iraq and the Muslims and Israel, I personally, he said, will go to Israel and I will fight and die. I will give my life for the country of Israel. He said he would volunteer for the Israeli army. He will fight and die for the nation of Israel, fighting Iraq in a war. Now, when you think that Bill Clinton is the scoundrel and the crud who was a draft dodger in the United States, who said he would never serve in the uniform of the United States of America, a draft dodger, filth. And now he goes and tells these Jews, well, I would put on a uniform and